Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So it's been a while. I took a little bit of a break. I really kind of needed that break, to be honest. I was really overwhelmed with a lot of stuff over the last however long, and I just really kind of needed a break. I got really burnt out, I would say, and what I spent the last week doing really was, first of all, I guess focusing on watching a lot of movies and TV shows, because I haven't really done that in a while. I've talked about that before. I only really watch hockey. That's pretty much it, or The Walking Dead. I want to watch some other TV shows and movies and sort of, because I want to cover kind of everything, more of the stuff that I'm interested in, and sort of get into everything again. So I sort of gave myself a little bit of a break, and now I feel completely reset and excited to talk about a lot of other things. I'm going to be doing The Walking Dead every single day. I won't stop that, but yeah, I do have a lot of exciting content, so stay tuned for that. It's December now, or at least December 1st as I'm recording this, and so yeah, I thought I would start off with a Q&A video here, which I will be doing 2 Q&As because I asked for some more questions on YouTube as well. So I got a lot of questions there, and I also got some questions on Discord as well. So yeah, that's gonna be a lot of fun. So before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. But let's start off with the questions that I saw here on Discord. So Q&A, do you think Judith or RJ will get Carl's ending from the comic? Oh, I really do wonder. You know what, I think right now it's probably a little bit too early to say. I think that eventually we will sort of know that, but I think right now the story needs to build to something like that. I think we need to see where Judith and RJ are in terms of the story, because there's a lot of little things that could be different, right? Depending on where the arc is and what the arc is going to be, it's not going to be the Commonwealth, it's going to be something entirely different. So I think that it could really go either way. Maybe Judith dies at the very end. Who knows where this story is going to go overall, right? So I think that it really depends on what the next Rick and Michonne story is and what this whole endgame thing is going to eventually look like. We don't even know if it's going to be, The Walking Dead season 12. Maybe they bring that back, or maybe it's going to be a brand new series entirely, or maybe it's the Ones Who Live season 2 or 3, right? If they want to do a different Rick and Michonne story beforehand. Until we know that, it's really hard to say overall, but in terms of answering your question, if I had to guess who would get that ending, I'm going to say Judith, just because Judith has the connection to Carl, and I think they would probably want to make that connection overall, right? So I think that makes a lot of sense, just because RJ is new to the series, right? He showed up in season 9, whereas Judith has been there since season 3, but she was also a part of the story in season 2 because of, everything happening with Lori, Shane, and Rick. So she's really been around for a long time, literally since the beginning. So I think it would make sense that, that comic ending for Carl, that would be given to Judith, I'm guessing, at the very end. Q&A, should the Walking Dead universe end in a few years, or should they continue with new characters after our main characters are all wrapped up, like how the MCU continued on past Iron Man and Captain America / Steve? Love all your vids. Thank you so much. I think they're going to do that. I think I just kind of look at it from a business perspective, in terms of AMC, they have the rights to The Walking Dead, and so I just see them continuing the story forever, for as long as they can, because it just makes a lot of sense. I look at a lot of other shows and whatnot, they continue forever. There's just something about it when you have a show like this that you're able to do that. You can keep going every single year and, produce content. And I think they'll probably do that. I think it's going to be a lot of different things over the next 30, 40, 50 years, right? If you look at The Walking Dead and what's going to happen over the next 50 years, I feel like there might be a reboot at some point. There might be a comic telling. Maybe it's an animated telling of the comic book. Maybe it's this whole other sequel series. I think that there's going to be so much that happens. So in terms of answering your questions, though, continuing the storyline after, this part ends, I think they will do that, because, rebooting the whole series right away, that's something that I don't think makes a lot of sense to me. What I think makes a lot more sense is, well, do a Next Generation show where it's sort of the next era, right? Sort of after Iron Man and Captain America, but it would be after Rick, Michonne, Daryl, Carol, Maggie, and Negan, do the next part of the story. Maybe those characters are somewhat still around, but it's the next generation. And so you focus on that, build out a whole world for a little bit. Maybe it's not as successful, or maybe it is because it finds a new audience entirely. And then I think after that, once you have that for, I don't know, however many years, then you go back to something like, okay, we're going to reboot The Walking Dead. Because I think at that point, people are going to be like, I missed the old Walking Dead, I missed the old characters, and then some time might pass where people say, yeah, I do want to reboot kind of thing, right? And so I think that's where you do that. I still think we're pretty far away from doing a reboot because the characters are literally still here. Like, I think that might happen in, like, I don't know, a long time from now, like a really long time from now. So, yeah. Q&A, do you want to see Tales of the Walking Dead have more seasons, but only for well-known characters? I think they should do it. I really want to learn more about the Whisperers, the Saviors, etc. Yeah, I think that was the issue with season 1. I've talked about that a lot. I've said it here and there, where I think the issue was the lack of connections to the story of The Walking Dead. There were so many easy connections they could have made. They just never did it, and I just never really understood why. Like, it was so easy to make certain connections, and they never did. And so watching every episode felt pointless. If they just made the connections to certain things, I think everyone would be like, whoa, that was really cool. Like, you really explored that story there, or you did this. And so it just felt like it mattered, right? So I think that's really what was missing there with that show. It was just a show where they focused on, I don't even know what. Like, honestly, some of those character stories were really cool, and it really felt like there was connections to other stories that we heard about on The Walking Dead. But then it turned out, no, there was no connection at all, like nothing. And so it felt like nothing mattered. And, a lot of us talked about that while the show was airing, and I think it hurt the show quite a bit. And that's why we never got a season 2. I think, I think Gimple probably knows that too at this point. I think that they just needed to focus on a lot more well-known characters. And if you're going to have stories that are, on original characters, do that. Maybe you have one character that's not really connected overall to The Walking Dead. Like, there's 6 episodes in that season, so maybe one episode was like not connected at all to anything, and then you had 2 or 3 episodes with other characters. And that's the thing too, is like Alpha maybe would have had 2 episodes, right? Like, they gave her 1 episode that season. I think they could have gave her 2 episodes, to be honest. Like, maybe her episode was like the first episode, and then, it ends on a cliffhanger, and then you watch back in the finale to see how that ends. And then the 4 episodes in between, maybe one of them is like this random episode, but 3 of them are other stories with, like, one of them maybe, another character from The Walking Dead. Like, maybe it's Abraham, or I don't know who. It could be really anybody that comes back, right? Like the governor, or maybe there's something there with Carl or something, right? Like, do something like that. And then again, like the last episode or 2, just sort of have it on other stories of these little things where it explores certain locations that we saw on The Walking Dead, but you sort of give a backstory. Like, it was just really easy to do that, I think. And they just, again, they kind of didn't do that. And I thought for season 1, with what they showed us anyways, like, it was so simple, like the whole thing with Terry Crews and his character, and the connection to Tyrese that they could have made there, because I think his name was Jerry, I'm pretty sure, right, in the episode. And Tyrese talks about his neighbor, Jerry, that had a bunker. Like, literally, there was a connection right there, but no, there was no connection at all. Like, they literally didn't know each other at all. So, like, that was something that I was like, wow, you really could have expanded the world there, but you didn't. And then the Atlanta episode, they shouldn't have done, what they did there. That was really, like, I don't even know what they were doing there. But exploring a different story there with new characters in the Atlanta downfall, I thought was really cool. It was a new original story with new characters, but you were set in the Atlanta downfall where, that's where Rick was and everything. So that was really cool. But again, they just did that weird thing with the story in that episode, and it just made that episode not really that likable. There were some good episodes, but I just think that's really Tales of the Walking Dead's, biggest issue there. And I think that if they were to do a season 2, I hope that they would fix all of that. But it's one of those things where I don't know if AMC wants to take a chance on that again. We'll have to wait and see. Q&A, would you like to see a backstory on Colonel Donald Okafor? Oh yeah, see, that's also another thing too. Do another story on him. Like, literally do a Tales of the Walking Dead episode on him. Like, that's the one thing about Tales of the Walking Dead. Why isn't that show airing every single year? Because, like, Okafor, there's a lot that we can learn about Okafor. There was a lot in his backstory. Like, give him an episode on, like, the next season of Tales of the Walking Dead. Like, if we had that to look forward to every single year of Tales of the Walking Dead, exploring certain storylines, like even certain characters that you saw in, like, the other spin-offs and stuff, to sort of, like, build up some more backstory. Like, there's so much you can do, honestly, with Tales of the Walking Dead. I don't know why I did so bad. It was just, honestly, the writing and the way that they handled the show. It was just really not that great. Q&A, do you think that Heath getting getting captured by the CRM by Jadis and dropping a triple P card means she had to have had a current CRM member there, because how could Jadis have had that card yet when she captures somebody, she takes them back to the junkyard and then waits for the helipad? Maybe Heath got away. In terms of a lot of that, I think that, I guess that really depends. I don't really know what happened there in terms of, that triple P card being there. Like, Gimple does know what the story is. Like, he's talked about that recently, and what's weird about it, though, was the way he worded it in the last, I don't know when he said that. It was around the time that The Ones Who Live was airing. It was somewhere around there, maybe a couple of months before that, or it was around that time. But he said that he has the story written, it's on the shelf or something like that. And yes, it will be told soon or whatever. So the way he made it seem and again, this is just sort of how I'm interpreting all of that, but it just seemed like he just sort of wrote that and decided what that's going to be. And before that, when we saw all this stuff, he didn't really know what it was going to be. It was a lot of hints at a lot of stuff that we really have no idea what it means overall, because he didn't really know what it meant overall. So in terms of little things like that, again, I think once we do learn a lot more about that, then maybe we can go back and see well, what does that mean for this or whatever. But as of right now, I don't really know. I know that the triple P card is related to the CRM in some way. There's some kind of connection there, I think, but we'll have to wait and see, because it could also be very separate. But the last question here that I want to get to, and I'm getting this here from YouTube, what is the likelihood of a Clementine spin-off? How could they fit it into the current timeline? Well, in terms of a lot of that, I think that AMC would have to make a deal with, I believe, Skybound. Now, I don't know how all of this works, because I haven't really done a lot of research on this, which I probably should, but I want to replay the Telltale games first and do my reviews of all those games, or all the seasons and whatnot, and then get into all of that stuff. And that's what I want to do right now, because I do want to get into a lot of that and how all of that could happen, because I think that, Telltale's was sort of, when they did the games, I'm guessing they made a deal with Skybound, right, to make The Walking Dead, because obviously it was based off of the comics, so they would have had to have made a deal with Skybound, who owns the rights to The Walking Dead, to do that. And so obviously AMC, I don't know what their rights are. I know it's movies and TV shows, and they can do games as well, because The Walking Dead Destinies was a game, right? So they could obviously do games, but that was also not comic characters. That was based off of, the show's universe. And so I don't know entirely, what they can or can't do, but I think for Clementine, if the show ever wanted to do that, I imagine that, because that was owned by Telltales and all that, I think Skybound now owns Telltales, or it's I don't know who owns what, but I'm pretty sure Skybound does. I think that AMC would have to make a deal with Skybound to be able to do that. And I mean, maybe they've tried, we don't know, what they've been sort of working on. I think that, yeah, a Clementine spinoff would be perfect, to be honest. I think that show would do so well. Announcing that they're doing a Walking Dead Clementine spinoff would be absolutely amazing. But again, I think AMC owns the rights to that, because I'm trying to think about it. Yes, they can make a season 4 or maybe a season 5 of the Walking Dead Telltale series. But, if you wanted to do a TV show, I think that is what AMC owns the rights to. I think anyways. I don't think Skybound could do that on their own. I think AMC would have to, again, I don't really know what the issue is with that overall. I really don't know. If anyone else knows, more specifically, definitely let me know in the comments, but that could be what some of the issues are here overall, is just who owns the rights to a Clementine, spinoff. Does Skybound own the rights to that? Because I could totally see them doing an animated series or something, or does AMC own the rights to that? I know Robert Kirkman mentioned something about an animated series. I think it was something about he would have to get the rights back from AMC, or it was something like that. I don't remember exactly what he said. I'm trying to remember, but I think that there definitely is some issues overall with that. But I think the likelihood of it happening is, I think it is going to happen one day. It might happen 5 or 6 years from now, or it could happen 20 years from now, or maybe it's announced in the next year or two, because Invincible's doing really well. But once that show ends, what does Skybound want to do after that? I think they're probably going to work on another series that they have to actually make into a TV show. And the one thing that they own, right, is The Walking Dead. And, with what they did with, Invincible was really incredible, but they went with Prime Video to do that, right? So I don't know if that's what they're waiting for in terms of that. I do think if they had the rights to do a Walking Dead comic animated series, they would have done that, or they would have announced that already at this point, and they probably would go with, Prime Video, I'm guessing, just based off off of the success of Invincible. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But, you know, to answer your question, what is the likelihood of a Clementine spinoff and how could they fit that into the current timeline? I think that it is very likely, but I don't know how they would tell that story. I just don't know how they would do it overall in terms of trying to fit it into the story, because you almost need to set it in the story that it's set in, right? Like, it would have to be sort of separate. It would be its own story, and you would have to change a lot of the stuff where Clementine is interacting with some of the original characters like Glenn Herschel and the other characters and whatnot that we see throughout that series, right? And so you would have to change a lot of that because obviously you can't get those actors to come back, and there would be a lot of issues there, but I do think that the likelihood is very high. It's just that it's going to be something that I guess could take quite a bit, right? So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I'm going to get into the rest of the questions though in my next Q&A video, so stay tuned for that. But again, thank you so much for posting all these questions. I'm going to be doing these Q&A videos every single Wednesday. I know this one's not coming out on a Wednesday, it's coming out on a Monday, but I do have the other Q&A video coming out on Wednesday, so stay tuned for that. We'll be back on track, and yeah, I'll ask for some questions on Discord, and then I guess I could ask for some more questions on YouTube here as well, since there was a pretty big response to that. So yeah, but thank you so much for all of your questions. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.